Hello, Haystack Rock Awareness Program interpreter Samantha Ferber here, introducing you to the Bird Observation Station. The purpose of the Bird Observation Station is to closely observe birds, their nesting habitats, and behaviors. It will also introduce important concepts about birds such as migration and adaptation to the students. Remember, this information is reiterated on your station support sheets, so you do not need to memorize all of it. There are two parts to the bird station, a scope activity and a non-scope activity. If your group is large, split them into two groups. One will do the scope activity and the other will do the non-scope activity. After 7 minutes have passed, you will switch. If the group is small enough, have them do the non-scope activity together, then do the scope activity. Again, each activity should take about 7 minutes. The objectives for the scope activities are as follows. K through 5th grade will observe and compare and contrast at least 2 different birds and their nesting habitat while discussing their behavior. 6th through high school will observe at least 2 bird species, noting their interactions with different species. The scope activity, again, is 7 minutes. Therefore, the introduction to this activity should be 1 minute or less. The most important thing to note is to not touch the scopes. Tell the students to use the legs of the tripods to balance as they are looking. Briefly explain that these birds are here to nest and that most of them spend the fall and winter on the open ocean. If you have time, you also may want to talk about why wildlife refuges are so important. As the students are looking through the scopes, you should be helping them make observations by asking important questions, like what does the bird look like? What is the bird doing? Do you see the birds interacting? You may want to use bird eggs to supplement this activity. Many of the students are anxiously waiting in line to view the birds in the scopes. If you have an extra volunteer on hand, it may be useful to have them show the kids waiting in line the bird eggs that they will be seeing in the scopes. The non-scope activity for K through 5th grade will focus on learning how different birds feed and swim while discussing migration. The 3 birds you will focus on are the tufted puffin, pelagic cormorant, and black oystercatcher. The 3 concepts you should highlight are wintering, how they feed, and how they swim. This is a role-playing activity. Your students and you will be the bird when discussing these concepts. For each of the 3 birds above, say to the students, so you're just done nesting and you are headed home for the winter, etc. First, show the students a picture of the bird. Ask them, does anyone know what this bird is? Then briefly describe the life cycle where they are when they are not at Haystack Rock. Show them their skull and describe how they feed. Show them their feet and describe how they swim. And then act out how they feed and swim as a group. Do this for all 3 of these bird species. If you do not know their wintering habits, how they feed, or how they swim, this information is provided on the informational bird sheet. If you do not have this informational bird sheet, please let me know, and I can email it to you. The 6th through 8th grade non-scope activity will explore bird adaptation by examining different features of birds. You will need the bird parts kit from the bird cabinet. These red blocks hold the different laminated sheets, the pictures, and the bird clues. With the kit, you will also have a key that identifies which parts go to which bird species. They are all color-coded. You'll also have a timer so you can watch the time, and as you near 7 minutes, you might need to speed up the activity. To learn how to do this game, let's pretend that you are students and I am the interpreter. Set up your table as shows. Every part of an animal is designed for its environment and way of life. These are called adaptations. Today we will examine eggs, feet, and beaks of seabirds and shorebirds at Haystack Rock. Your first clue is a bird clue. The clue is, this bird nests on exposed rocks above the surf. Which egg do you think belongs to this bird? If you guessed the far one on the right, you are correct. That is camouflaged brown and speckled brown to blend into rocks. This gives away the answer, but we'll pretend it doesn't. The next clue is, this bird nests in dense colonies. They do not build a nest. They lay their egg directly on top of high rocks. As you can see, the correct answer is the middle egg in the top photo. You can see that this egg has identifying markings, which this bird who nests in dense colony uses to identify their egg. Also, the shape of the egg is an adaptation. The bottom is heavier, which allows the egg to roll in a circle instead of rolling off. This is important because, as the clue says, this bird lays their egg directly on tops of high rocks. The two remaining eggs are very similar. I will read their clues. This bird nests on cliff sides. They build their nests out of sticks, grass, and seaweed and cement it together with guano. This bird will lay 2 to 3 eggs each year. Last clue. This bird nests in burrows. Each pair will lay 1 egg in their own burrow that they use year after year. Generally, the students guess that the picture on the right-hand side belongs to the bird that nests on cliffs, because the description does say that they lay 2 to 3 eggs. That is a fine reason to pick it, and it is correct. But what you want to point out as the interpreter is that both of these eggs are white, no distinguished marks to identify, or no camouflage. And that is because each of these birds have a specific site that they only use to nest. The one bird nests in burrows, while the other builds their nest on cliff sides. Now that we're done with eggs, we can move on to matching the feet. Your first clue. This bird is a shorebird. It does not swim, it wades. If you picked the picture on the far right, you are correct. You should notice that this bird does not have webbed feet. Therefore, it is a shorebird and it does not swim. The next clue. This bird uses its large webbed feet to swim underwater. Diving up to 100 meters, their large feet and long toenails help them cling to cliff sides while nesting. If you guessed the one on the far right, you are correct. You can see that that bird has very long toes, and they have long claws that help them cling to the sides of the cliffs. You have 2 feet left to identify. The next clue you have is, this bird is a seabird, spending most of its life on the open ocean. Before nesting, it uses its sharp toenails to dig and clean its burrow. You can see that the foot on the right has longer toenails than the foot on the left. Therefore, you can match it. We have the beaks remaining. For some groups, it takes a little bit longer for them to match. That is why you have the option of skipping this step if you're running out of time, and having them try to match the pictures on the left side of the table with the clues above. This will allow the students to easily match the beaks. But you should still remind them of why they have that specific beak. Let's read the clues. This bird stays on the shore and feeds on barnacles, limpets, and chitons. It is often seen in the intertidal probing or poking for prey with its long beak. If you guessed the second one to the left, you are correct. You can see that the beak, in proportion to the rest of the skull, is very long and it is pointed. There is another visual of this. You can also see by these pictures that the beak is completely straight. It does not have a curved end, which is perfect for probing for those small intertidal invertebrates. Let's read some of the clues, although we have already matched them in this slide. Beak clue 2. This bird also uses its thick, hardy beak to dig and clean its burrow. When feeding chicks, they also utilize the robust beak to contain 10 to 30 whole fish in their mouth at a time. This is the tufted puffin description. You can see that as compared to the other beaks, it is quite thick and robust. Bird number 3. This bird carries only 1 fish at a time back to their chick. You can see that the common murre skull is very thin, so it can only hold 1 fish at a time. The top of the beak is also curved down a little bit, which helps contain that 1 fish in their mouth. Last clue. This bird swallows its prey whole. When this bird is feeding chicks, it will regurgitate their meal for them. This is the pelagic cormorant. You can see that the beak is quite small. It also has a curve at the end. Because the beak is quite small, it shows you that they're not carrying fish in their mouth. They are actually just eating the fish and regurgitating it to their young. As I said before, the description and the steps to do this activity is on your station support sheet. The station support sheet also tells you which clues to read in which order. High school. High schoolers may do this activity, or they might do the 6th through 8th grade activity, or both if they have 2 bird observation stations in their field trip program. The objective of this activity is to discuss how human activities impact bird populations and to challenge each student to take personal action to help birds of Haystack Rock, and birds in their own community, of course. Again, the introduction to this activity should be relatively short. It could be, all living things have basic necessities to survive: food, water, shelter, space to raise their young, and space to roam. Today we are going to brainstorm and discuss how humans impact birds' basic needs. You can see that on this brainstorming bird, located in the bird cabinet, is a list of all those needs that a bird has. They will be brainstorming how humans impact these needs. There are laminated pictures to illustrate what they brainstorm. There's examples of negative impacts like oil, pollutants, overfishing, bycatch, trash, dogs off leash, fireworks or noise disturbance, and plastic. After taking a few minutes to discuss the negative activities of how humans impact birds, you should also discuss some positive ways we can impact birds. There are also laminated pictures to illustrate these. These examples are keeping dogs on leash, education, creating refuges, picking up debris, research and monitoring, limiting human disturbances, recycling, sustainable fishing, and rehabilitation. Hopefully the students will think about these ideas. If they don't, you can give them some clues to think about the impacts that we have illustrations for. I should also note that the bird skull located in this kit actually goes with the keeping your dogs or off-leash dogs. The positive impact would be keeping your dogs on leash. This Western gull was actually killed by a dog, so it's a very tangible evidence that it is important to keep your dogs on leash because birds can be directly harmed by those dogs. You also have a stopwatch in your kit so you can track your time as well. If you have any questions about these activities we discussed in this lecture, please give me a call. These kits are also available in our office if you would like to look at them to better understand how to do the activities. Thank you so much for your time.